It's hard to believe, but we only have 4 Sundays here in the sanctuary before we move into the chapel for our summer season of worship. And so over the course of these 4 weeks, as a way of bringing this time together to a close here in the sanctuary, we're going to listen to some great songs of the Old Testament. And we're beginning this morning with a powerful song of Moses, and we turn to the book of Deuteronomy. And now let us hear the word of God as we listen to the great prophet Moses. Give ear, O heavens, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. May my teaching drop like the rain, my speech condense like the dew. Let gentle rain on grass, like showers on new growth. For I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Ascribe greatness to our God. The rock, his work is perfect, and all his ways are just. A faithful God without deceit, just and upright is he. Yet his degenerate children have dealt falsely with him, a perverse and a crooked generation. Do you thus repay the Lord, O foolish and senseless people? Is not he your Father who created you, who made you and established you? Remember the days of old. Consider the years long past. Ask your father, and he will inform you. Your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High apportioned the nations, when he divided humankind, he fixed the boundaries of the people according to the number of the gods. The Lord's own portion was his people, Jacob, his allotted share. Many years ago, I was visiting one of our church members who lived in a senior residence, and when I stepped onto the elevator to go up to the floor where our church member lived, I noticed there was a sign inside the elevator that had the list of the day's activities at the residence. And one activity caught my eye immediately, and it has stuck with me ever since. And that activity was reminiscing time. And I thought, oh, isn't that wonderful? Reminiscing time. A time when residents could get together for this designated hour, could come together in one of the lounges and tell stories about their lives, could share memories together and reflect upon those things which were important and special to them. I thought, isn't this a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for people who are in that latter season within life's journey, really to have this moment with friends, with fellow residents, to tell the stories of their lives, because storytelling is so important to us. Reminiscing is so very important to us. It's not simply because of a sense of nostalgia that we carry within us. It's not simply because we want to tell the romantic stories, those happy stories within our lives. It's not that we simply want to try to cast our past in purely a rosy or happy light, but we tell the stories, the good stories, the difficult stories, the happy stories, and the sad stories. We tell those stories because those stories, our own narratives, our own journeys, and our description of them, we recognize that those stories have shaped who we are throughout our life's journeys, and they shape who we are at that present moment. And that's why I say that storytelling or reminiscing is not simply nostalgia, but rather it is so important to us because I believe that deep down, when we touch the roots of our lives, we recognize in a very, very palpable, visceral way that what we have experienced shapes who we are, and we honor who we are, and we honor our journey by talking about it, by recalling the stories of our lives, by reflecting upon all that we have been through, the good and the bad, the hopeful and the sad. We tell every piece of our lives, recognizing that to honor our past is to honor our present moment. And so I thought when I was on that elevator that this is such a wonderful opportunity for the residents to come together and to talk and to listen, perhaps to find common ground, perhaps to recognize the differences in our lives, but in doing that, to honor where we have been and who we are in this moment. Storytelling is powerful. It is really, you might say, a spiritual practice. Within the Bible, storytelling plays that similar role. We have to keep in mind that at the time of Moses, there was no writing system yet. An alphabet hadn't been formed. A way of recording things on paper had not yet been crafted. And so the memory of the people is handed on by word of mouth. The people of Israel understand who they are when the stories of the people are told. And so it is with Moses. As Moses approaches the end of his life, he imparts to the people in this powerful, extensive song a reminder of who the people are. And for Moses, this is incredibly important, foundationally significant. Moses reminds the people of who they are as he proclaims who God has been for them and who God is at that moment. And so you see within the Bible, reminiscing, telling the story of the people is always fundamentally linked and interwoven with the story of the living God, a story of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because Moses and the other great singers, if you will, within the Bible, they see and they know that the history of the people is shaped by their connection with God. The history and shape of the life of the people is constituted, is formed by the revelation of God who has called them to be his people. And so Moses is going to speak to the people here. But at the beginning of this chapter, when Moses begins to sing, he's not simply going to sing this song to the people of Israel, but he is going to, as he says, sing to the heavens, give ear, O heavens, and I will speak. So for Moses, the singing of this song, it's not simply for the people to understand who they have been and who they are, but it is an act of worship. Telling the story of the people is an act of the worship of God. And so Moses says, give ear, O people. But give ear, O heavens. The words of Moses are directed to those around him, and the words of Moses are directed toward those whom, as the choir has sung, are that great cloud of witnesses who have gone before us. And perhaps not only the cloud of witnesses of the men and women who have gone before us, but you might say the angels in heaven themselves. Moses is going to sing. He is going to proclaim the story of Israel. He is going to proclaim the story of the God of Abraham, and he's going to allow the people to see how their lives and God's call are fundamentally interwoven. And it's a prayer as well. For Moses will say, "May my teaching drop like the rain, my speech condense like the dew, like gentle rain on grass, like showers on new growth." These words of Moses, he is praying, he is hoping that the song that he is going to sing is going to bring life. Think about the image that Moses is using, that the words that he speaks, that the song that he sings will fall gently upon the grass, upon the earth, so that it might flourish. And so you see that act of reminiscing that we might do, the storytelling in which we might engage, storytelling to which we might devote ourselves as a spiritual practice, as a life-giving practice. Perhaps you have had people within your family, elders who have passed on stories to you. My grandfather was a great storyteller. My mom's dad, a great storyteller. I learned so much from him, so much about my own history. And when I think about his storytelling, when I think about his reminiscing, surely his words fell like a gentle rain giving forth life. Because as he reminisced, I began to come alive. As he told those stories, I began to come alive because I knew my own roots in a new way. And in knowing my roots, I understood more and more who I am today. And so I grew. And I'm sure it's the very same for you. When you have heard the stories of your family, when you have heard the stories that your parents tell, grandparents tell, great-grandparents and other members of your family, I am sure those words have fallen like a gentle rain, informing you of who you are and giving a new dimension to your lives. So you see this act of reminiscing, this act of storytelling, it's no trivial matter. It's a spiritual practice. It's a spiritual practice in that it is life-giving. And so Moses, that is his prayer, that what he is about to sing will be life-giving. And it's not going to be an easy song. Moses is not going to simply say to the people, "You have 100% a wonderful story." No, it's not like that. Moses is bluntly honest in his song, but he begins by reminding the people that he is singing of the rock, he says, who is perfect. He is singing of a faithful God. And this is so very important within the songs of our scriptures, that the God of whom Moses sings is faithful to his people. And now Moses, in a very difficult turn, I'm sure it was very difficult for the people around him to hear this. Moses contrasts this faithful God with a people who seem to wander from God and seem to be faithless themselves. There's a contrast within this song. Moses is telling the good, he's telling the bad, and he's telling the ugly. But ultimately, for Moses, it is the faithfulness of God which will make all things whole. He says to the people, don't be foolish, don't be faithless, don't wander from God. Remember, Moses says, remember the days of old. Reminisce, if you will. Consider the years long past. Reminisce, if you will. Ask your father, and he will inform you, your elders, and they will tell you. Moses is imploring the people to go to those who carry the stories within them. Amnesia is really very, very tragic. When we forget our past, our present becomes one-dimensional and shallow. So Moses, he is saying, go and remember. Listen to your father, listen to your mother, go to your elders and ask of them who you are. Ask of them who God has been. And we will come again and again to this enduring theme. A faithful God who calls a wayward people into a relationship with one another. A faithful God who calls a scattered people to receive a new sense of who they are. A brand new identity as children of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Of children who are called and a children who are numbered by God amongst his own. This is so beautiful and it's so powerful, and it shows to us that a simple sign in an elevator, in a residence for retired people, a simple sign that says, reminiscing time at 11 o'clock in the lounge. A simple announcement and a seemingly simple gathering has far more weight than one might imagine. Carries within it far more significance than one might consider. For reminiscing time is precisely what Moses is asking of the people. Reminiscing time with friends and with family at 11 o'clock in the lounge is precisely the prescription that Moses is giving so that the people understand who they are and so that they won't wander again in the future. Reminiscing time at 11 o'clock in the lounge is a powerful spiritual practice during which the stories of our lives are told so that we too similarly may understand our past and may understand the present moment, not simply in a shallow, one-dimensional way, but with all of the depth and complexity that each human life bears within it. The stories of the people of faith are much like the stories of the people of Israel, of course, because our stories as people of faith are the stories of our lives, but they are as well the stories of our experience with God. times of great closeness with God, times in our lives when we feel that God is not there, times in our lives when we experience reunion with God, times in our lives in which we experience the fellowship within the community of God's people. Reminiscing time for people of faith is much like what we are encountering here. Stories of a faithful God in our lives, personal stories describing the seasons of our lives, and all brought together in an interwoven whole. This is a spiritual practice. This is a beautiful practice. This is a way of beginning to comprehend the richness and the complexity of our lives in our brokenness and in our wholeness, in difficult seasons and in joyful times. So reminiscing at 11 o'clock in the lounge is not to be taken lightly. I love the fact that there is that time set aside for residents. I love the fact that people are encouraged to tell their stories. I love the fact that Moses sings a song here as he says to the people of Israel, if you can't remember, ask your elders. So he is saying to us, if we can't remember, let's ask our elders. If we can't remember, let's find those stories. And when we do, and when we hear them, let us embrace them. Let us embrace them so that we might know. I have a past that is worth telling. I have a present that is enriched by that past. And there is a future that is shaped by both, a future that we might anticipate in the very same way that the people of Israel looked to their horizon, anticipating the presence of God who called them step by step into that very future, which truly is our very future as well. Amen.